Welcome to another edition of Math Snacks with Miss Lovely and Miss Wonderful. Today we're going to talk about coordinate grids. And guess what, Miss Lovely?
I already know. Miss Pointer is back with us. Come in, Miss Pointer.
Oh, Miss Pointer, you're looking very scary this time.
Well, I am, but you know, I've got some fun things I want to share with you guys today, and I just thought we'd mix things up just a little bit, and so you never know what you might see the next time.
Well, they're used to that. They never know which gloves I'll be wearing.
I'm the consistent one here then.
Okay, let her think that.
Okay.
For now.
So, Miss Pointer, tell us about coordinate grids.
Well, I think coordinate grids is a really hard, it's really a hard concept for kids, and it's one thing again about recognizing numbers and being able to count vertically and being able to count horizontally with number lines, and that's one of the first things we want to share with kids. So the first thing we did is we have this really cool little math mat that we'd like to bring out.
Bring it?
Okay,
let's bring it in. We're going to have to fix it back up because numbers kind of got jumbled all
Uh-oh,
over the place.
let's make sure they're in the right spot so that they're
So this
in
is what
order.
you mean by counting vertically and horizontally.
That's right.
Gotcha.
And also having an understanding of the zero and the representation that it holds. So kids really have to be aware of that as well.
You know, at my level, I just took for granted, and that you make a really good point, but even at my level, the upper kids, they were very good with a horizontal number line, but we always had to think of when we would see numbers arranged vertically. So I'm glad to see that we're doing that even as early as primary grades.
And I thought about when you said that, it made me think about how many times when we do work with number lines, with a lot of our episodes we've done number lines, we've always used a horizontal number line, but for them to see a vertical number line is so important.
Exactly.
Well, and one thing other than the numbers going horizontal and vertical is when you're talking about coordinate grids, one of the questions that always seems to be one that arises is which number is read first. When you have a number that's represented, let's just pretend for a minute, we should probably write this down so that they get an understanding of what we're talking about.
Okay.
If there is a number, are you going to write it, Ms.?
I can write it.
Okay,
like.
that would be great.
Okay.
Let's just say 2, comma 2. And why? And we probably need to talk about why we have the comma up there and what each of these 2's represent.
Okay.
What's the first number represent, do you think?
Well,
Miss Lovely.
you're talking to someone again who has that prior knowledge, and so I know that 2 means to move on the horizontal number line first, and so we would move over 2 spaces on the horizontal number line.
Okay, so let's go ahead and model that.
Okay,
and,
so
and
if-
do that on the horizontal part.
Can I use fish? Because this
That'd
looks
be
like
awesome.
a pond to me.
It is a pond.
Okay, I would start at 0 and move 1, 2.
Okay.
So he'd be there.
He would be right there,
He's
right
there.
now.
And what is your name again?
Oh my goodness, Miss Pointer.
She's wonderful.
I'm Miss Wonderful.
How could I forget?
I don't know.
Okay, well,
it's
Miss
probably because I
Wonderful-
kept messing up your name last time.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I'll forgive you.
Okay.
But can we slide this down just for a minute? Because I
Sure can.
loved how you wrote an arrow down
Mm-hmm.
here to represent that. I think that's a really great visual for kids, and you just must have knew to do that.
Just a way for me to, instead of saying move over to the right, I just did an arrow to
Well,
represent that.
We need to get a W for your finger that stands for wonderful, don't we?
Ooh, there we go.
Yes,
Okay.
because we have gloves and pointers, so she should have a W.
Right. Well, I think that's a really great idea. So obviously, if the second 2 is there, it needs to represent going vertically. So now, Miss Lovely, you just go ahead and
Move my fish.
And
So-
how are you going to do that?
I'm going to count up on the intersections. I'm going to go 1, 2. So he would be at the intersection of 2 and 2.
That's great. Now, I'm glad to see that you didn't. Sometimes kids will come back over here and they'll count from here and go up 1, 2. But I was glad to see you stayed right here on this coordinate and came up to that intersection.
I know I've seen kids a lot of times, their misconception is to put it in the,
Like right in here.
like in here.
Oh, in
And
the
I-
square?
And I think it's because they see that oftentimes. Like I know when I was in school, weekly readers always put it in the side the square, and in social studies we did that a lot too.
Right.
Well, and I think sometimes we kind of confuse this with maps sometimes, because if you think about a road, you're not going to put houses and things on the road. You're going to put them out to the side as like for city blocks. And
Right.
I think that's something that kids get confused with too, because that's just something that we kind of inordinately do. We just know that there aren't roads and cities on top of each other.
So I think it's important for them to understand that they come over and plot things on the intersections, because that's where this 2 meets that 2.
Well, that's fabulous.
And you know, I have another way that that helps myself remember which way to go first, or
okay.
second, and it's just a little saying, and I'm going to write it down. And it's step right up. So in the first quadrant, I know to step right first,
2.
and then go up.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And when I taught it with my older kids, because we talked about how a baby has to crawl before he can stand upright and walk. So they would crawl across and then stand up.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
So there's several different ways to remember that.
And another cool way that we've seen is where you take a shower curtain and you make the coordinate grid on the shower curtain, and the kids actually get to step right and then right up, and they actually get to step on it too. So that's another idea for coordinate grids.
Well, honestly, when you start and think about little people, I know you're with bigger kids, but when you start thinking about little people, obviously the first thing you teach is left to right progression in reading, and when you use a number line anyways. So if kids will really try to think just left to right, that's how you're counting, that's the first step you're going to do on a coordinate to find the grid. So hopefully if they go back to their basics of what they first started learning how to do is counting from left to right with that number line, that might be another way. But I love that step right up.
You want one more?
That.
You want one more way?
Of course I do. Let's see it.
Okay, one more thing that we teach them at my level is that this is the
Her and her my level thing,
okay,
you know.
Okay.
Well,
but
I can get to your level once in a while, but not very often.
okay, let's talk about middle school children. Forget my level.
Okay.
But with middle school children, this is the horizontal axis, and it's got the name of the x-axis. This is the vertical axis, which is called the y-axis. And x always comes before y in the alphabet, so they move on the x before they move on the y.
See, and that really makes sense. That's something I never, honestly, never learned when I was in grade school, high school, middle school. It didn't happen.
Well, we can always learn.
So
Exactly.
I want to try one
let's
of these.
play. Let's just play.
Use your ducks.
Use my
You need
duck.
to use the ducks, and let's just. Can we write down again, Miss Wonderful? Let's just write it down just one more time, so that.
What am I writing down?
Well, or I can write it down for you
Okay.
if you'd like. Let's
Can
try
you
this.
with that big long fingernail?
Well, you know, I might have a little trouble, especially since I am left-handed. Let's try this one. 3, 4.
Ooh, she did pretty well being left-handed and
Yes,
writing
she
with
did.
her
Well, I
That
tried.
long-
3, 4.
3,
A
4.
duck on 3, 4.
That's
A
right.
deck on 3, 4.
Now, remember what we're talking about, stepping.
1, 2, 3, stepping right, and then up or crawling, as Miss
No.
Glovely says.
Yeah, you crawled. Now you're going to walk
Okay.
upright.
I got to start over because we weren't even in the screen here.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
there, now you are.
1, 2, 3, and now I'm going to stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
You know, a cool game to play with this, since we're talking fish and ducks, is we can play like trying to get 4 in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd have
It's
to write
called
it
Connect Core.
down. Connect core.
Because
So-
you're doing a coordinate graphing, and
Oh,
it's like
cool.
Connect Core.
That's a cool idea. Well, let's figure that out. We'd maybe even have to figure it out in writing as well. I mean, kids would have to transfer that knowledge from their grid onto paper.
They'd
So-
have to write it in like their coordinate grids here.
Yes.
They're
Well,
ordered pairs.
so are you thinking connecting? Oh,
Uh-oh. No, we're going to block you.
But we've got to say that is 3, 3.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I would do 3, 2 to block her.
And then I would do 1, 2 to block her.
Ooh, I'm going to have to do 2, 1.
And I would have to do 2, 3.
oh.
And I would have to do 4, 4, 3.
And I would do 0, 1, because now I got 4 in a row. But I had
Oh,
no
look
way.
at that!
Oh, quack, quack, quack.
Quack, quack, quack. Yay!
Good job.
Okay. Let's look at how this coordinate grid then grows at an older grade level. Okay? So can we remove the
Duck pond.
The duck pond?
Most certainly, because you
But,
won.
you know, there's lots of games that you come up with, though, with just
yeah.
the Connect core that you just came up with. You could do 4 corners. You could do lots of different things with this.
Cool.
Again, I think that main point is making sure we get it on the intersection of those lines and not in the spaces. Okay,
Thank you.
moving on. Let's look at Miss Glovesley's level of work.
She's sounding a little bit.
Okay, Miss Glovely,
Ooh.
tell us about this.
It's kind of blurry.
It's hard
Can
to
I,
Miss Wonderful.
can I zoom in? Does that help or make it worse?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, just kind of fill us in a little bit of.
Well, actually, the X and the Y axis are marked here, which is good.
Well, let's do this.
You know, we can't see those very well.
Not very
can
well.
we?
Maybe
Let's
you could mark
say
them.
this is the x-axis. And boy, this is really tough. This is the y-axis right here.
Yes, it is. And you'll notice that the space that we were working in a minute ago was just right here.
Which is called what, Miss Glovely?
This is quadrant number 1. This is the one that we start with.
I'm going to use your marker.
Where all
here.
of our numbers are positive, both on the horizontal and the vertical number line.
Okay.
What do you notice different about the other numbers that you see, Miss Pointer?
Well, it looks like there are lines here, and if I'm not mistaken, those mean negative numbers there.
Right, so if we were talking about Miss Wonderful's favorite thing, money,
Oh,
this would be money she has. This would be money she owes. Oh, nothing she likes to talk about there. If
I'm going to
this,
do something else while you're doing that.
okay, those, yeah, she's marking the other quadrants. And then if this was what would be something that we normally would have a vertical number, or yeah, a vertical number line for?
well, thermometers.
A thermometer. So if this would be temperatures above 0, and this would be those cold temperatures below 0.
Oh, yes.
But could these also not be the cold temperatures?
They
below
could be.
0? And this could also be the money I
It-
owe
It
you
could
probably?
be. Probably.
Okay.
Probably. And notice that what Miss Wonderful's done here as well, she's marked these other quadrants with names, and they are quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's the only time you really see Roman numerals, or the only time I write Roman numerals.
That's
Are
for
for
sure.
quadrants. So basically, it works the same way as with quadrant number 1. We always move on the x-axis before we move on the y-axis, whether we're talking about positive or negative values.
So,
So,
can I try one?
sure,
So now I can put pluses and minuses in my numbers.
you bet.
So if I wanted to do a positive 5, negative 6. Can I get my duck?
Well, if he'll fit on there, sure.
I would crawl to the positive 5,
That'd be right.
and then I would fall down
Yes,
to the 6,
the negative 6.
the negative 6.
That's exactly right. And you would end up in quadrant number 4.
Okay.
Very cool.
And this also reminds me, and it's another day, another lesson for another day, but the whole T-charts. And when we have X's and Y's or ins and outs, if you have, let's just talk about this duck. If we had one duck has 2 eyes, and 2 ducks have 4 eyes, and 3 ducks would have 6 eyes, and so on, this actually becomes our coordinate pair
Right.
and could be marked.
So it'd be 1, 2.
2,
And the next duck would go at
2, 4.
The next one would be 3, 6.
Awesome.
and then that leads to all kinds of other
Linear
lessons.
equations and slope and all kinds of cool things.
So, Miss Pointer, the things that you're starting with at your level with the primary kids leads to lots and lots of other math at other levels. That's really cool.
It is really cool. I've learned a lot, and I'm looking at and seeing how what we do in the primary grades really does connect and scaffold with what you do in the upper grades.
We like that.
That's
Everybody's in this together.
That's
Woo!
right. Well, thank you for joining us in another episode of Math Snacks. Thank you, Miss Pointer, for joining us. And thank you, Miss Glovely, for your input. And join us again. This is Miss Wonderful. See you later.